Traditionally, AC has a bunch of big maps that you have a bit of loading in between. And that's the way we've been building AC. That's the way we know how to build the world and structure it. And even, from a very technical standpoint, that's how the mission structures work.
And so that was the first direction we tried, basically as a natural evolution. But we soon enough realized that it wasn't fitting. I mean, we wanted to do a pirate game set in the Caribbean, and we couldn't pretend the Caribbean to be just 4 locations. Well, at the beginning of the game, we knew we had a big challenge to make this naval open world.
We did a bunch of different tests, different size maps, small ones, big ones, maybe 4 huge maps. I remember that was a big test. There was a huge debate over the 4 big maps. And then how do the cities integrate with this Caribbean world? Do we have Havana, that's one huge map, and then we have a separate map which is just water, ocean.
And if you imagine Cuba here and the Leeward Islands here and the top of South America and up to the Yucatan Peninsula, that creates a nice arena. And immediately the designers were thinking, that's perfect, that's our world right there. But as soon as I come to them with, well, actually, all the pirates hung out in Nassau, which is above Cuba, they had to throw out that map and start again. So that's one way that research, a good solid research pushes you in the right direction. You could not have done a pirate game with Blackbeard without having Nassau. It would just be impossible.
Another element was the naval itself, making it open world, making the Caribbean world itself be a sandbox, which is something slightly different for AC. AC is traditionally much more narrative driven with a bunch of side missions and collectibles. Some systemic stuff, but it wasn't really a sandbox. And so this, for us, was a new challenge to really make AC4 a sandbox.
Our creative director, Jean Guidon, he said that our game would live and die by that feeling of getting on a ship, sailing, getting off a ship, roaming around an island, getting back on your ship.
As soon as we had that first map where we were driving and there was an island and we stopped at the island, jumped on it, and it was a big jungle. That jungle doesn't exist in the game anymore, but that feeling was incredible, and we knew instantly as soon as we did that for the first time. It was like, okay, this is the game. This is the magic. We felt it. Everybody in the room felt it.
There was an Ocean Engine in AC3, but it was limited to linear missions. Now we have something that is systemic. Like if there's a storm coming up, the BOFAR level needs to increase and stuff like that. So all the technology had to be pushed to be working on next gen, and to be also adapted for the gameplay that we were trying to do.
The simulation AC3 was already able to handle big surface of simulation, but since we also increased the level of detail on AC4, we had to adapt the tech for that. We also had to adapt the fact that it's not only ocean, it's mass of islands and big islands all across these walls. At first we had very simple shape of waves, rounded shape, but very repetitive. You would see the pattern of the wave simulated quite obviously. There was no detail on the surface. There was no foam. There was no transparency. The water was totally opaque. So it was really crude at first, right? But it was important to get a feel and a sense of motion, even at those early stages, and also the sense of distance that we had to travel. We need to test the speed of the boats, how fast they would go. So it was a mix of gameplay tests and visual and animation tests at first.
We have pushed the limit of the physics simulation to the point that the player can really feel when he's pushed by a wave, and you really have to play with the waves in order to sail from one location to another location. By doing that, we also reinforce the strength of the storm and the danger that the storm are creating in the world. And the player will feel this, will fear actually the storm when they're coming at him.
We are pushing. That we're doing things that we wanted to do on AC3 that we couldn't because we didn't have the horsepower to do so.
The way we're set up in the team is that we have a dedicated team doing next gen, but we didn't want to have two separate teams. So we don't have like a team doing a next gen version and a team doing a current gen version. We really want to make sure that it was the same game, that was the same core experience for our players, but with a lot of enhancement on the next gen platform. So our next gen team consists mainly of a bunch of super good 3D programmers and very good technical directors that are able to create this little magic from technology that is built by the 3D team.
So things like texture resolution, tessellation of meshes, amount of particles, the detail of the FX, notably for all water interaction, objects falling in water, wave rippling on the surface, but also all the rendering effects like the level of precision of the caustics, and also the underwater, which is something new on AC4.
The Caribbean is very well known for its clear crystal waters and turquoise blue color stuff and very dreamy postcard style. But we didn't want to put that in too much in the game because we're trying to make a gritty, realistic pirate game. But after we did a little bit of research, we found out that the corals actually only look colorful when you're really up close to it. So that really plays well to what we're trying to portray. So that way we can use the corals to create interesting silhouettes. And then when you get up close to it, you will actually start feeling like, wow, this is actually the Caribbean.
In AC4, you will be able to jump out of the water, swim and go on an island in a seamless manner.
We do load into our cities because the cities were just too big. And so here we decided to take a design decision and say, okay, here we're not going to push on the tech. We'll go easy and we'll load the cities because we felt it wasn't adding to the experience. However, the cities are there in the world. When people see them, you can drive up to them. You can see Havana with all its cathedrals in the world. It's there. It's not that it's a wall that you drive into and just loads. So this was one of the challenges early on. It was actually a bit hard to swallow for me to accept having that load, honestly. But then once it started working and once we saw how it was going to work in the game, it just all of a sudden it was like, okay, it makes sense.
So we already spent a lot of time in AC3 like trying to figure out what was most fun to have a land versus sea gameplay. So we had a lot of learning. So at the beginning of AC4 we took all that learning, went back on paper and said like, okay, so what's the next step now and how we can make that fit in the open world.
I wanted to make it, of course, big, but more importantly, interesting for the player. So we had to consider how many different activities we needed to have in this world. We had to consider the density of those activities, how many encounters the player had to face when he's traveling in the world.
From AC1, we really wanted to bring back this open assassination. So the main assassination really are not driven, are not told step by step to the player. The goal is simple, the objective is clear, kill that guy.
So I needed to start thinking about the story in terms of when I give you a mission, typically through an opening cutscene, I need to leave the player with a goal that can be communicated through the mechanics that you have available to you. So that means more missions like steal that ship, kill that guy, infiltrate that fortress. Because these verbs can be, as soon as you get that verb, if I say to you, infiltrate, you as a player can be creative with the mechanics you have. You say, I know how to infiltrate because I know how to climb, I know how to assassinate, I know how to do these things.
We actually are completely comfortable with people not going on the main path. We actually built systems to take them off the main path.
We have a hunting system not only on the sea but on the ground, and they all are sharing the same system. So basically every time you kill an animal, you will be able to get the skin or other parts of the animal and craft some improvements, some upgrades for your own character. So basically the incentive to hunt is actually great. It's like how you can progress as a player.
Having a strong progression system allows us to build systems and activities and things that exist outside the main path that will still lure players to do them. And I think this is the biggest difference with this AC is that we have the Jackdaw and there's a lot of upgrading to do with it. And at some points you have to upgrade because the game will get way too hard for you. We do have gates and missions that you know, we warn you before you start this mission that this is going to be too hard if you're not ready. So maybe go play in the world, build up a little bit, buy some more cannons. We actually want players to play the game as they wish. If you want to be more piratey about things, if you want to use the ship and do a lot of boarding and finish objectives that way, we don't stop you. If you want to be more stealthy about it, more assassin about it, the game is very open to that.
Rather than this kind of coming-of-age story where we see a young man thrown into difficult circumstances and the assassins provide a way forward, as it was with Ezio and Connor, certainly. Edward's approach is very different.
We put the control in people's hands and we ask them, how does it feel to be Edward? Do you feel an assassin? Do you feel a pirate? And unanimously, you feel it.